First, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Sam Greenwald is the owner of Momentum Business Capital, which is a financial service B2B. It's in the payment space with credit card payments and also alternative working capital, which is really intriguing. It's not today's subject, but it sounds fascinating. Sam's been 13 years in the industry, and most importantly, he's coached others, and they have done better than you, from what you were saying. That's pretty exciting stuff. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker about managing your sales pipeline, Sam Greenwald.
Good evening, welcome. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming, taking the time out of your busy schedule. It shows, it shows an excitement on my part to see people who want to advance their financial independence. He mentioned earlier that we're going to save some time at the end for about 15 to 20 minutes of questions. And hopefully, this way we can get through the hour of the session and give you over as much information as possible to help you guys become more effective and better salespeople. Being in sales, we're all accustomed to the notion that sales has delayed gratification as well as delayed damages. What we accomplish today can be rewarding, not necessarily today, but in the future, but also what we don't do today affects, our future as well. Today I'm going to discuss some key and healthy points on how to build a better pipeline. Not just theories, but some practical actions that have worked for me personally and still continues to work. I don't know about you guys, but I've been affected by the storm. I can't get gas. None of these gas stations, have gas. I'm waiting forever to get gas. My wife is due actually this weekend, and I'm nervous to use the car because if she has to go into labor, I have no gas. I'm in trouble. What happened here with the whole gas situation? There was a break in the pipeline. Not, a damaged break in the pipeline, but the supply of goods from the port where everything's being held to the actual gas station was broken. When I say pipeline, a continuation of a pipeline, you need that continuation in sales. If you don't have that continued pipeline, you're in trouble. Maybe not today, but in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, because what you didn't do today, or what you didn't prepare for today is going to affect you down the road. So, hopefully, what we're going to discuss today is the idea of how to start fixing the pipeline today, where you can feel the effects, not necessarily immediately, but in the near future. Yeah, I'm maybe good at sales, I'm not good at speaking. So. One of the things I've realized over the years is knowing your product based on your industry is key. Some industries shift, and you got to shift with it, and some industries, can stay. How do you know if you know your product, and how do you know if you know it well? Yesterday, Gedaliah and I were sitting. We had a chance to spend a couple hours and discuss, today what we're going to discuss about and continuation of what we had previously discussed. And he brought up this story or this theory. He told me, you're about to go into surgery. You're sitting there, you're all prepped. The surgeon's there. It's a pretty big operation you're about to do, and you're nervous. You go to the surgeon and he said, how confident are you? I mean, do you know what you're doing? So he looks at you in the eye and he says, as well as you know your business. At that point, are you going to tell you, go be relaxed and say, hey, I know my business as well as, or are you going to be nervous and say, hey, maybe I better know my business a little better? All right? So if you can feel confident by that answer, you know your business well. Confidence feeds your pipeline. Now, how do we build a pipeline? So first thing I did when I started was I used my connections, people I know around me. Everyone, all of us, have local connections, people that we know, and people that you directly know, not necessarily by, in show or someone, but, maybe family members or cousins or in-laws, wherever it may be. Make sure they have a good understanding of what you're doing. Don't just accept the I trust you factor. That's the worst thing you can possibly do to yourself. Because when someone says, I trust you, here's my business, they have an assumption in their own mind of what you're going to do for them. And you may actually disappoint them. So it's very, very important that we're going to go out and solicit business, even if it's someone from even if it's someone that you know or you know well, make sure you explain to them, what you're doing, the process, how long it's going to take. In my industry, in my space, I'm going to talk a bit about, the credit card processing. There's two different types of clients. There's many types of clients. You have the retail restaurant business owner that the setup is pretty standard. You go out there, you take the application, submit it, get it approved. It takes about a day or so. But then you have the more complicated ones. You have the ones that are maybe doing larger transactions over the internet, and they're not the standard, day setup. So if they come to you, these clients, and they assume that, yeah, I'll take care of you, and they want to be up and running in 24 hours, and it take a week or two, they can get disappointed. You got to spend the time to explain to them within your product what you do and how you do. It's very important. You need to properly manage your expectations. Now, another thing about going after clients or people that you know, I want to give you an example of how I approach this. A couple of weeks ago, I met a cousin of mine that owns a very successful B2B company. He goes out and sells services to other businesses, products in this situation. So I said to him, can I have a chance to earn your business? He said, sure. He gave me the contact name of the person who handles that in his office. To me, that's my door opener. The biggest thing in sales is you need a door opener. So I went out, I reached this person. I reached out to this person. I sent an email, a follow-up phone call, and I introduced myself. Not once did I mention, hey, my cousin sent me to you. I mean, you can imagine most of us would want to naturally do that. Hey, my cousin sent me to you, give me the business. The reason why I didn't do it is I've learned historically in the past that perhaps, yeah, you can get the deal based on a cousin and relationship, but you're not going to go further with it. A, I want to prove myself based on my product and based on who I am, not just because I have, a relationship. And B is that I want this guy who handles it, not necessarily is he my cousin, but he works for my cousin, but this is his domain. And if I do good for him, he's going to refer me to his other friends who are in similar industries, refer me to him. And at the end, it was tough, but I won the deal. I went back and forth, and right away he said, everyone chases my business, but through my knowledge, and I explained to him the product and the process. He was confident in my ability to help him out. I had a chance to review his current process, negotiate something better for him, and I earned the business.
How long were you in the business before you find work with this person?
I'm doing this 13 years.
So 13 years before you find that cousin?
No. I mean, I'm doing it for 13 years. I've been patient, and it was the right opportunity as well.
So I know when I started selling, I felt awkward, talking to family members and friends. I mean, how do you get past that?
You got to be confident. You got to really know your stuff. So if you can really know your stuff and you go out there, learn it, and they talk to you, they feel like, they're talking to someone that's knowledgeable. If you're going to go out there and say, hey, I just got into this business, they'll feel bad for you and say, hey, I want to give you some business, but you don't take it that far. You're not going to be respected as someone who knows the business. There are many industries right now that are what I call the barrier of entry is very easy to get into. Everyone's looking to just jump into. I know guys that get into a business and they do great for the first 6 months. Why? Because they tap into all the friends and family. After 6 months, their pipeline dries up. Why? Because they went ahead and they exhausted it, but the people they went to didn't feel confident enough to refer them to the next candidate, to the next potential lead. You got to come in, and they got to know that, hey, not just is my relative doing it, or my cousin, or my friend, or my neighbor, or whatever it may be. The guy knows his stuff. This person knows the product, and the person knows it well. That's what's going to differentiate yourself from others. I know it works for me. Now let's speak something that I really personally enjoy. Trade shows. How many of you have been to a trade show before? All right, I like that. Okay. What I've learned over the years, and I've made many mistakes at trade shows, is that there's no need to travel far. Vegas is very alluring. It's nice to get away. But, locally here in itself, the Javits Center has many shows, and many times they have multiple shows at the same time. There's two things I like about trade shows. There's two ways you can attend a trade show. One as a vendor, where the attendees are your prospecting clients, or the other one you go as an attendee, where you're going to meet. You want to go solicit other products and see what other services you can sell. When I go as a vendor, first thing I do is I look way in advance. I check, let's say, the Javits Center. I check the calendar. Okay, I see what kind of shows I want to attend. I'll give something that we all can relate to, the kosher food show. Okay, so the kosher food show. Who attends the kosher food show? Restaurant owners, retail store owners. These are my prospects. These are my clientele. These are guys I want to go after. So I want to position myself at these trade shows at the best location possible. I don't want to be at the far right side or the farthest side. I want to be either dead center or next to somebody who I've known historically has made incredible, a big booth. Because the guys that spend a lot of money, they attract a lot of crowd. And I'm going to be right next to them, spend a little bit less than they do, or spend as least as they have to, but there's going to be a crowd next to them. Now once I'm at this trade show, I don't just sit at my booth and wait for someone to come by. Okay? Everyone noticed that I'm wearing one of these tags. This is my biggest door opener when I see someone walking by with a tag. Someone walks by and I see it says, Sam. I say, hey Sam, how are you? He stops for a second. He looks at me like, do I know you? I said, no, but I go right into it. The fact that I use his tag and the fact that I use something that's available, it's very, it's like it caught his attention. I speak to him about, talking about what I do, and I take his information, but I also make a very big point to recognize something key about something about that person I'm speaking to. Don't forget, they're not just here to see you. I mean, they may not necessarily have come to the show to talk about a service. They may have come to the show. It's a food show. They may have come to look for new products for them to sell. So it's a very tricky situation. You got to take their information. If the guy's name is Edward, but everyone calls him Eddie, you better write that down on his business card, right? Eddie, tall guy, Chicago, likes the Yankees, whatever it is, something small detail. I do that consistently. Now, I do make it a point as well, is when it's a little bit quieter or someone else at my booth, managing the booth, I walk the floor. I go and visit every other vendor, because these vendors are potential clients of mine. Now again, these vendors are people that are here to get business. They don't necessarily want to talk to me about my services. So I'll wait to see if someone's not busy. I go to these guys, I take their information, I chat with them, talk a little bit about it, I take their card, and the key thing is, I got now a stack of cards with notes in it, because you come back and you can see a card and a name and you can forget what you spoke to the guy about. If you write something about the guy, a nickname or something, it's very helpful when you come back at the end of that night to know what you're talking about. So there's two things. When you go to these trade shows, you can become an attendee, walk the floor without being a vendor, and approach each one of these vendors that become potential clients, or find shows like I just mentioned, like the food show, that you're not necessarily offering a food product, but find a show that you can go out there and be different than others. Find that niche. Now here's the thing. I used to come back from the shows so excited. I have stacks of cards, but what's the biggest mistake I did? Anyone can imagine what I did? I forgot to put them into a database. It got stale. Now, great, you got all these cards, but you didn't do anything properly. It got stale. So what I do now is, right when I get back from a show, I put them into Microsoft Outlook. Personally, I like that. In the notes, I add some detailed notes about the person, and I follow up with an email right away. And the email is very simple. Hey, it was great to meet you, John. I noticed his nickname. I'd like to follow up with a conversation. How about next week, Tuesday or Wednesday? In the email, I specifically write a date and a timestamp or when I can follow up with them. Because if you just say, hey, I was hoping to catch up with you when you're not busy, which successful person is not busy? They don't want to tell you they're not busy. So it's very important that anytime you follow up after the trade show is to send an email with a specific date or something that you want to follow up to.
How many people respond to your email?
Oh, when I do it, yeah. I get a response almost all of them. I've been to many shows where I've actually registered to the show and I wasn't able to make it to the show. Now what happens is after the end of 2 weeks later, I get an email, oh, thank you for stopping by my show. I'm like, I never went to the show. People at these shows, the biggest mistake they make is they buy the list. They send out a mass email. I go by Sam. Sometimes I'll put down Shmuel, Samuel, but if no one's writing Sam, I know I never met the person. It's a generic email. I delete those. When I send out an email, it's personalized. I mean, maybe the bottom half of it is going to be like, similar to everyone else. But the top is, hey, John, how the Red Sox doing? Or what's going on? How's your son? How's your wife feeling? Something that they notice, hey, this guy remembers me. Now I do this. In addition to this, once I do this and I send out the communication, I establish this continuation, this moving forward, the next stage, the next step. I'm always moving the pipeline forward. I'm building it. So I'm at these trade shows, I'm meeting people, I'm getting cards, I'm taking it back, I put it into the system, I created a pipeline that I'm working on. Maybe the results will come to me in 2 or 3 weeks or a month, but it's a pipeline that I'm building.
A quick question. Does
Yeah.
anybody use personal notes after meeting somebody? Handwritten notes? Business card. Yeah, it's who sends handwritten notes anymore? It's a real attention getter, isn't it? Thank you. Exactly.
One of the tricks that I do personally is when I send an email, I put a V card with a picture of me. Because you meet so many people at the show, and when they see a picture, that's the guy. I met the guy. The tall guy with the yarmulke. Okay. Also, once I send out a communication, I'll go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very valuable tool. Many people mistake LinkedIn as just a place to go and look for a job. Let me tell you something. It's been a gold mine for me. When I go on LinkedIn, first thing is I get the person's picture. I add it to their contact. Now every time I get an email from this person, the picture pops up. So now I'm having a communication through email. Most of my clients are nationwide. And I have a picture of someone I'm working with. So when I go to a show next time, I say, hey, Bob, how's it going? So I don't have to wait to see a guy's name to see who he is. I met him once, but you see this picture, continuation of a picture. It helps you also build. Also, when you're talking to him on the phone, you see his picture in front of you. It's much easier for the communication. Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. How many of you have LinkedIn profiles? How many of you have used LinkedIn? People use initially LinkedIn to go search for a job. When I go LinkedIn, let me tell you a little secret. This has been my last tip of the day, and I want to hand you over afterwards to Gedaliah. Okay? I go on LinkedIn. I look for a group. Okay? For example, if I'm selling dishes, I want to go after a group of restaurant owners. I want to go after a group of bar owners. Why? Because sometimes these groups are like 10,000 owners get together to discuss things about their business. So I join this group. I become a member of this group. Now, either I spend 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, and I just, monitor all my different groups that I'm part of. I see a conversation that says, hey, I'm looking to update my dishes, or who's got a recommendation for better dishes for my restaurant? Boom, I respond. When I respond, 10,000 people have the ability to see me. All right? Or I'll call this person directly. So when you look at LinkedIn, I want you guys to think of it as something as a way for you to troll and go for potential leads. Get a little creative, out of the box. Focus on a group that you want to go after. Join the group. And then either find an article that pertains to your industry and say, hey guys, this is a great article. This is why I'm in the industry. And you end up getting a lot of reviews, a lot of looks, and potential clients to go after. Again, these things I just mentioned are not just theories and concepts, have worked for me, and till today I constantly do this on a daily basis. So I hope some of you guys can take some of this information, take it back with you, and utilize it to enhance your sales, better your sales, whatever you sell, be successful. Give me 1 second. I went ahead and
there are a few apps available, by the way.
Yeah.
You scan in the cart by taking a picture of it on your iPhone or any of your any phone.
Right. Yeah, there are.
It brings it in.
Right.
And it sends automatically invitation for LinkedIn.
But where I do that, when I send a LinkedIn invitation to somebody, there's a generic LinkedIn invitation. Here's where I'm different.
Yeah.
It says, hi, I'd like to be a friend. I ignore half those. When I send a LinkedIn invitation, it says, hey John, how are you? It was great meeting you last week at the show. They know that I just didn't upload all my contacts and send out a mass invitation.
Yeah, I got to stop on that one.
I just got to stop there because when I say I'd like to add you to my the default LinkedIn message, I ignore it practically. I mean, if you really want to connect with me somehow, can't you just write a sentence, please? And if you can personalize it, somehow how we met before, how much more powerful is that?
Many times I see a potential guy, I want to connect with him. I'll say, hey, John, I was at the show last week, or perhaps I heard you were speaking. Can I follow up with you about it? They'll respond to that, they'll respond to the invitation, not just accept, they'll respond, hey, thanks for reaching out. What can I do? How can we do business? So, look at LinkedIn as just not a way to build up a Facebook profile and tons of friends, but a way for you to go ahead and actually build connections with people that can either know people that are clients of yours, that will trust you with what you do, or a way for you to get direct clients. Now, here's a key thing that I've learned over the years, and it was a big mistake that I didn't do years ago. Who knows where I would have been right now? Okay. I get a client, I get so excited, and I walk out. I forgot to ask them for a referral. Once you build that pipeline, which is very important, you got to continue feeding it. One way of feeding this pipeline is once you get that client, don't be afraid. If he trusted you because of your knowledge and what you got doing, don't be afraid to say, hey, do you have a friend or two you could recommend to me? With that, I'd like to say thank you very much. I want to hand over the room to a gentleman by the name of Gedaliah. Gedaliah lives here in Crown Heights. He's been part of New York Life since 1992. 1992, correct?
Yeah.
He signed this contract in 1992.
Do I look too young?
No. He calls it his own financial independence day. From 1997 to 2008, for 11 years, he was a sales trainer, coaching multiple offices, thousands of agents, and helping them achieve their financial independence. In March 2008, he became corporate VP of New York Life, identifying trends and cross-selling existing New York clients. So please give attention to the Gedaliah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Like most things in life, we are running late. Now, I wanted to make sure that in the limited time we had together, we would give you something that you could use immediately. And time is short, and I'm not sure I can cover both. So I have two ideas here. I'll let you folks choose what you want to hear. I have one idea that will allow you to network more effectively. And I know if there's a networking, you found there's a networking part of this after the main presentation? Yes. So it might be a good opportunity. And the other one is a process to clone your best clients through referrals. So just very quickly, which appeals to you? Networking? Let's see networking. Networking, referrals? You can't say both. I pick one. I only picked one. Okay, which one? Networking. One more time. Hands up. Hands high, please. Networking, referrals. No, referrals win, hands down. Okay, this is the one. All right. Could you dim the lights slightly for the PowerPoint? Now, in my industry, which is the financial services insurance industry, referrals are our lifeblood. And here's why. And see, one of the things I was thinking about is, what can I do? Let's go through here. There we go. Okay. Here's a question. Again, everything I'm talking about today is universal. It's not just tied to my industry. It applies to anything you're doing if you're in a business where someone can introduce you to somebody else. Does that fit most of your profiles? I hope so. When a prospect, when someone becomes your client, what have you just lost? Your best prospect. And the very proof of the fact that they became your customer or client proves they were your best prospect. Now, Sam was talking about your pipeline. When you make a sale, you've just lost your best prospect, and the money that you make on the deal is like an anesthesia. You don't feel the pain of the lost potential. Your pipeline just got a little emptier, and you didn't realize it, and you didn't feel it because you just made money. Great salespeople feel that pain. They say, I just made the biggest deal of my life. That's fantastic. But what will I do next month, next quarter? A lot of people coast. You ever do that? Make a big deal and coast for a couple of weeks? And all of a sudden you're back to zero again? It's not fun, is it? Does your income sometimes go up and down dramatically? You know, I call that the unhappy roller coaster. You know, I love roller coasters, but not that one. So with that realization that when you've just sold somebody, when you picked up a client, you just lost your best prospect, how do you replace it? Well, referrals, personal introductions, are incredibly powerful. I don't know about your industry, but I'll give you numbers from my industry. Cold call industry in New York City especially, you have to probably speak to at least 60, 70 people before you pick up one client. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Events, seminars, you can probably get it down to 1 out of 4 out of 5. The success rate for referrals is 1 out of 3. What's the cost of acquiring these? It's time, and time is money. But other than that, it's near zero. So if I have something that historically, at least again in my industry, I don't know about yours, has a 33% success rate and has a near zero acquisition cost, why aren't we doing it? Well, is anybody getting referrals well, getting introductions well? Does anybody have a process? Excellent, excellent. I'm going to guess you're pretty confident in what you do. Fair statement? Fair enough. Because most of us, myself included, didn't do this because of fear. You're afraid. You're afraid of what? Ruining the relationship? Losing the sale you have already? Which is true. People will do business with you out of charity. If you are selling a commodity item, something that's a pretty standard quality, they'll say, you know what, I'll give Gedaliah the business. New York Life, I work for New York Life. New York Life's a great company. It's a great insurance product. Whether Gedaliah sells it or some other person sells it, it's the same quality product. I'm okay with it. So people will give you business because they like you. You're a nice guy. Oh, I never want to be a nice guy, by the way. That's the worst, to be in the nice guy category. Because nice guys aren't trusted guys. And by the way, guys is, it can be any gender, right? I get yelled at when I speak in public in other parts of the country because they say I have to be gender neutral. And they say guys is not gender neutral. But I tell them, in Brooklyn, guys means anybody. So the first step is, if you're asking for these introductions, you have to be confident. I'm going to say it's 90% attitude, 10% technique. I've trained so many people on this. I give people a perfect approach, but they don't have confidence, and you will never get referrals if they think you're a beggar. People value, generally speaking, most people value the relationships they have with others more than money. People will spend themselves into debt to keep up with their peers. Have you ever seen that happen? Maybe you've done it once or twice. Because they value how they're perceived by others more than money. And therefore, the introduction or the referral is a higher level of trust. I like to always say that doing business is like getting engaged, and giving referrals is getting married. And again, for those of you who are married here, I hope when you proposed you didn't beg. I don't know, maybe it works. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. So the first step is attitude. And I remember one agent, this guy's name was Vitaly. He's a Russian guy. And he said, like, I'm giving this class talking about the fears of referrals, and he just kind of says to me, I don't see a problem. I ask, I say, give me names now, and they give me. No technique, pure confidence. And it worked. So let's talk about this. All right, so we mentioned the higher level of trust. Don't rush to it. This is something I did all the time. Because I was afraid, because I was confident, I would just kind of very casually say, hey, do you happen to know somebody? Now, again, the referral is a higher level of trust. Again, going back to the analogy of proposing to somebody. Can you imagine, proposing to somebody that way? Hey, do you want to get married? What do you think? You'd probably be single now, right? You're asking for something serious. The request has to be done seriously. And the reason why we kind of do it casually and, oh, by the way, is because we're afraid. So we don't make it sound significant. But that doesn't work because people don't give referrals to people they don't respect, the people they perceive as begging.
It's possible to get a referral from someone who never becomes your client either. Someone who's
Absolutely. My favorite one was a nurse who, in the life insurance application, was uncovered as uninsurable. We uncovered a significant health issue. And most people, when that happens, they kind of go to ground and they just don't want to talk to you anymore. They just say, go away. She became my representative. She went to all her coworkers and said, do I look okay? Do I look healthy? I can never buy life insurance in my entire lifetime. You must see Gedaliah Robinson. And people would call me saying, I have to buy something from you or Gladys will kill me. So she was my center of influence. I kept very tight records of who introduced me to who and how much money I made from it. And she was one of my most profitable relationships, never a client. So thank you, that's an excellent point.
What about long-term relationships? If similar industry to Sam, if you're working with an independent sales organization and you have a contact there, at what point, what would your strategy be as far as you can't ask for a referral before you service the person?
The answer is, so you're asking when, right?
Well, in this scenario where you're doing long-term business with the person.
You can ask for referrals, and here's the key, when you've earned it.
At what point,
Every industry is different. In my business, it's usually when I deliver the policy. If I haven't earned your trust by then, something's wrong. I once, by the way, I'm not going to go to the whole story, but I once earned a referral in about 4 minutes, because I was talking to an owner of a nursing home, and he was telling me some estate planning he had done, and he had made one very obvious mistake, and I called it out to him. He picks up the phone, calls his attorney, starts screaming at him, and he says, I have a stupid insurance agent here who knows more than you do. I'm here in the room. And so he yells and yells at the guy. I was right. Puts the phone down, kind of breathes, says, thank you. And then I said to him, you see what I can do for you in 4 minutes. Imagine what I can do for other people. I kind of struck when the iron was hot, right? Now, that was once in a lifetime. To answer your question, it's when you've earned it. And every industry is different. When have you delivered relevant, significant service? So in Sam's case, perhaps it might be when you put the system in place. Let's say it's a credit card payment.
or on them, yeah.
Yeah, so you put the credit card system in place, it's working, they're satisfied, now you've earned it. They have a system in place they want, it's doing what they want, now you've earned it. Every industry is different. I see you have some hesitation. What is it?
Yeah, if you're talking business to business, if you have a relationship with somebody who, the guy's looking to do long-term business with you and send you additional clients, when you close your first deal with that person, you haven't really delivered much. And you close one client, that doesn't really show that you're capable, knowledgeable.
We can talk later about this because I like to hear about your business, but you would be surprised when you can. You'd be surprised. Again, not knowing you personally or your industry personally, right? Again, going back to a lot of us are afraid to ask.
I think the short answer is experience and gut feeling. There's no...
But make it a part of your process. Do you have an extra one of those papers, Sam? Or we don't have one? All right, so let me give you this. Thank you. I'm going to give you a quick and simple technique here for getting referrals. Now, to do this, you have to prepare. Oh, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Here's what you prepare. Give me your industry. Give me somebody you recently sold. What industry are they in?
What industry?
No. One of your clients. What industry are they in?
Construction.
Construction, okay. So let's say you wanted to use this method with this construction person. This is not the real world. We're off in Disneyland now. You prepare a list of people they might know. Company name, business contact person, and phone number. You have to have all three of those elements. Company name, contact, and phone number. And let's say it could be people in the same industry in the same area. It could be people that you know are suppliers to this company. Just a list of names of people that it's reasonable they might know these people. And this is a very quick and simple way to get referrals, because we're going away from asking for referrals and we're asking their opinions. I'll show you in a second. First step. And this might answer your question. So what's your first name? Ari? Ari, this might begin to answer your question. Before you go into the process, try these two questions. How do you feel about the work we've done? What answer might you get?
Excellent.
You get one word. You know, if you hear crap, if you hear like terrible, nah, abort, run for the hills. You know,
I'll help you out, Ari, for a second.
all right.
Picture you have all your agents that refer you life insurance policies.
Mm-hmm.
The brokers, he's in a similar situation. He has all these agents that refer him business. The question is that, he wants to know, the question is at what point can he ask that agent?
Whoa, sorry. There you
At
go.
what point can he ask that agent to refer him another agent to bring him business? So, I mean, here he got an agent that brought him one client.
Right.
After he brought the first client to him, or after he serviced multiple life insurance policies? That's where it is. At what point do you ask for a referral? After you know?
All right.
Am I correct?
Yeah, at what point would you ask how do you feel about the work?
All right, so I'm going to go back to my original answer, when you've earned it. And that's a matter of experience, and, but I got to tell you, it's a lot sooner than you probably think it is. So the answer, how do you feel the work we've done? The answer you'll probably get is something very vague, like very one word. Good, nice, I'm very happy. That's not enough. Second question, was there anything in particular you found helpful? What will you start to hear? Something nice about you. You were prompt, you were courteous, you delivered, you were on time, you were on, whatever it is. And let them go on, because as they're talking about how good you are, what's happening in the back of their minds? They're thinking how good, in other words, you're bringing, in Chassidus, they talk about the Koyach HaDibur can bring out an emotion better than anything else. Right? I can use that here. I can't use that anywhere else. In other words, as they are speaking about you, it brings out their appreciation of you. Right? Let them go on, because they're just selling. They're just making it easier for you. And if they go on, guess what? Guess what that tells you? You've earned it. When they're done, what do you say? When someone says nice things about you, what do you say? Well, who said that? Thank you. Whew, only one person. What? This is the beginning of the referral process.
So whenever you feel that time.
You prepare the list. You're ready to start. This is how you begin. When is it over lunch maybe? Is it while you're interacting? That's your judgment. But when someone says nice things about you, you say thank you. That was one of my classic mistakes. I just go right on with my pitch. And I realized, that's kind of, that's really rude. When they're done, you say thank you. Now, next step. And I don't mean, this is a new remote from me. Here we go. Explain to them why their recommendation is important. And it's all in writing for you there. In order for me to grow my business and be able to serve you better in the future, I would like to meet other fill-in-the-blanks, other construction people, other people who work in this mall, other people who live in this block, whatever it is.
How is growing your business going to help them?
Well, the second part, and be able to serve you better in the future.
Why? Why would I be able to serve my customer better if I'm just serving a
Well, I will say this. Number one, they're not going to think too deeply into this. But to answer your question directly, the easier it is for me to find new business, the more time I can focus on my existing clients.
Okay. I don't see the customer seeing it that way.
Now, true. I mean, really, the customer doesn't think about this at all.
Don't think about it.
You're just rolling through. Remember, they just said nice things about you. They just said you're good and stuff like that. I used to do that. Think of every worst case scenario, overanalyze it, and when you do get that one person who does say that to you,
That's what I would think.
okay, thank God most of the world's not like you. Okay, that's what I'll say. And Because I used to think the same way. Like, that's what I would say to somebody, because I'm a smart. And
No, if you're gonna give me an excuse that is totally off the wall, I'm gonna point it out. I find that to be.
okay,
In my case,
all right.
In my case.
We can modify this if you want.
No, okay.
No, but this.
You gotta think about the 300 million claim.
Thank God we're a minority, right? All right. So again, there's other ways of stating this if you wish. Okay. But I will say again, in my industry, I've done this over and over again. In order to grow my business and better serve you in the future, I need to meet other business owners like yourself and offer my services to. Here's where the list comes out. I have prepared a list of other people in the construction industry in what county, what area? Ari?
North Carolina.
In North Carolina. That I like to do business with. And I'm going to be calling them. Not asking permission, first key thing. And I'd like to ask your opinion of them. This is the key word here.
Is it important for them to give them a heads up that you're calling?
We'll get to that. Hold that question. That's a great question. But,
Aren't they competitors?
know your industry. Know your industry. In other words, and Sam, you mentioned earlier that part of what you do is our hard money loans. And if you would not want your competitors to know that you're taking a hard money loan, right? That means you.
Yeah, it's very hard to get a referral from somebody and
Right.
say, hey, I just gave this guy $100,000. It's
Right.
a sign of financial weakness. They don't want to say that.
So know your situation. In other words, if it's a competitor, now I've been referred to competitors because they know each other. They're not hostile competitors. It's they talk to each other anyway. They see each other at trade events. And if I can do employee benefits for them, they don't mind me doing employee, but I do mention, by the way, that I don't talk about you to them, about what you did and how much you're spending and so on. But if you think that's an issue, don't use that industry. And by the way, you'll see in a second, they don't have to know these people. So if you think that's a concern that's an excellent question, by the way. If you think competitors are an issue, then by all means, pick other companies in the immediate vicinity that are not in that industry. Because it doesn't matter whether they know them or not. It just has to be reasonable that they might know them. So he has a construction company in North Carolina, and you give a list of pipe welders from Alaska, you're going to look pretty silly. But if you pick other companies that are immediately surrounding that company, that's not crazy, is it? So you show them the list. I'm going to be calling them because, look, I have a name and I have a phone number. That's why you need a phone number. I'd like to ask your opinion. Here's a funny thing. Does this surprise you? People don't like giving referrals so much, but they love giving opinions. Right? There's a whole industry about that, collecting people's opinions. Do you know any of these people? Now, the goal is not to finish the names on the list. That's not the goal. It's just a mechanism for opening up the conversation. And you show them the names and say, see his first name here? Tell me you know this person.
I know.
He's a great guy.
Great guy.
Tell me about him.
Well, he does a lot of business.
Great. Okay, notes, write down, lots of notes. That's great information. When you're done talking, and I'm cutting you off now because time is short, otherwise I'd just let you go. Would you mind when I call him that I mentioned that we've done work together and you've appreciated the job I've done? Sure. Referral. Yay! Victory, right? That's great. Here's the bad news. That doesn't happen too often. Because usually either they don't know him or something. Now, let's take another option. Tell me he's a bad prospect.
Terrible prospect.
Well, thank you for telling me that. Whose name would you put there instead?
Mr. Smith.
See, I've done this so much. You have to say those exact words. Whose name would you put there instead? Instead of getting a referral, you're replacing a name on a list. It takes the whole onus of the referral away, and it's more just names on paper. Now, I know it would never work with you, because you would say, I know what you're doing. No, it's okay. It's okay. And I've come across you before, but you're the minority. Again, thank God for that. You're unique. What?
I'm not such a horrible person.
No, it's not horrible. No. It's.
There are some people in the sales who don't use my name.
I call people like you left-handed thinkers. Do you ever see a left-handed person write? It just kind of looks all wrong. There are some people. That
Hey, you watched me write earlier.
in other words, you see something you think differently than most people. That's not a bad thing. It just acknowledges that most people don't think like you, and that's okay.
What about if you don't have
You always do.
Can I give a good example? I used to, when I first started, I used to go door to door. I wake up, order home, I got a sale done. So what I do is I set up an appointment in a shopping, like a shopping strip, one store. I walk into the store, I have a meeting. I wouldn't leave. I walk into every single store next to me and say, hey, I just met with Johnny. Or Johnny, who can tell me who's the dry cleaning next door, or the candy shop, or the flower shop? So if you don't have a list going into it, like once you meet with him, look on the way to the meeting, who is surrounding his clients, and ask, what do you know about the guy next to you? What do you know about that guy? He may say, that guy's great, that guy's not good, but that's a great way to come in with a list of people that you want to.
That depends on what industry you are.
Right.
Right, so I'll give you an example of my industry.
Simple. You go to Yellow Pages. You know, I had a client on Avenue U. I just looked up all the businesses on Avenue U in that area. And I just put down a list of people in the same, turns out that they're all part of the same Chamber of Commerce. It was an excellent connection. If you use Dun & Bradstreet, you can look for, you can look up by SIC code, by region. A lot of the companies that sell these lists will give you samples. Like they'll give you 5 samples to show you the results, because they want you to buy 10,000. But for our purposes, 5 is fantastic. I used to use something called, it's long gone already.
More to referrals from existing customers. I think you were talking about prospects. I'm talking about referrals from existing.
Well, in other words, you're showing this to an existing customer. And this is, there are a lot of ways of getting referrals. This is a quick and dirty way of doing it. Because really it becomes replacing a name on a list rather than giving a referral. And the same thing, the most common outcome is, I don't know who this person is. Don't know who they are. No problem. Well, thank you for that. Whose name would you put there instead? And you say it confidently, you say it a little bit fast, and people start kind of like what you just did. They just start saying names. I once had an experience. When I was giving a demonstration to agents that this worked, and I had one of my clients installs networks in Staten Island. So I looked up people in Yellow Pages who do the same thing that he does in Staten Island. So I emailed him the list. Now, by the way, you can email the list. You can email a list, but it's got to be a conversation. This can't be an email conversation, right? So I emailed him the list. I put him on speakerphone, called him in front of the group, and I said, "So, Ellie, I see you're doing well for yourself. I'd like to meet other people who are in your industry. Here's a list of people who install networks in Staten Island. I'm going to be calling them. I'd like to know if you know any of them." And the first thing he says is, "Gedaliah, I'm contracted by X company. I do all their installations in Staten Island. I don't know anybody else who does what I do in Staten Island." Like, He goes, "But I know the people who do Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, Suffolk. Can I recommend you to them?" And this was a guy who just, it just came up. So the idea is not to complete the names in the list. It's to start the conversation. And if by number 1 the person's giving you 3 or 4 names, skip the rest, right? You're done. So it's a very simple idea, list method. You can implement it tomorrow. You have the words right in front of you. Questions, concerns, observations, or knock-knock.